أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه الصلاة والسلام في خطبته أنبئت بصرا قد اطلع اليمن وإني والله لأظن أن هؤلاء القوم سيدالون منكم باجتماعهم على باطلهم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Sunday morning commentary of Nahj al-Balagha. This is part 2 of khutbah number 25. We have already discussed part 1 before Ramadan, and part 1 was very quickly talked about complaint about the weakness of the people of Kufa that Imam ﷺ had discussed. So we went through that, just a background of it. If you look through the sermon at a glance, Ibn Abil Hadid and other commentators believe that this sermon was delivered after the Battle of Siffin, and following the arbitration issue, and then of course the conclusion of the Khawarij, that whole discussion, and then the aftermath of it. So it is considered one of the last sermons of Imam's life. And you can understand the frustration that Imam is having when he complains, and then he also, in this second part, where you will see how Imam ﷺ scolds his own followers. This is in another place in Nahj al-Balagha where Imam actually says that I will exchange 10 of mine with one of theirs, right? Meaning what? 10 of my loyal, friends and companions with one of loyal companions of Muawiyah. And Imam mentioned that comparison, and that will be discussed here in a short while. So Syed Rizvi has written at the beginning of this sermon that it was Imam delivered this at the time when he had received numerous reports about the dominance of Muawiyah forces over Islamic territories, namely Yemen. So this is where the discussion of Yemen is, involving a person by the name Busr ibn Artat, who was a bloodthirsty warrior that was sent by Muawiyah. And then, of course, delivery of the sermon sentenced a group in the city of Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen, even today, followers of the third caliph, greatly exaggerated the significance of their killing. So this was the recap from part 1. Part 2 is disobedience to the rightful Imam. So Imam gets right into it. He says, I have been informed that Busr overpowered Yemen. By Allah, I have begun thinking about these people, that they would shortly snatch away the whole country through their unity on their wrong and your disunity from your own right. So right away, Imam is comparing. They are united, although they're on batil. You are disunited while you are on haqq. And separation, your disobedience of your Imam in matters of right and their disobedience to the leaders in matter of wrong. Now, while this is happening in the 38th year after Hijrah. So you have Battle of Jamal, then you have Battle of Siffin, and the aftermath of it is Battle of Nahrawan. So Battle of Siffin, that's the 37th year after Hijrah. 38th year after Hijrah is when all this is happening. That's then. Think about it today as well. How does that apply to us? How the dominance of falsehood is, above the Muslims, where you find so much disunity. Their fulfillment of the trust in favor of their master and your betrayal, their good work in their cities and your mischief, even if I give you, this is where is the ultimate cry of Imam. Look at the, the analogy that Imam uses, keeping in mind of the people of that time. Even if I give you charge of a wooden bowl, I fear that you would run away with its handle. A bowl made out of, it's got handles on it, right? That's how you hold a bowl. Is if I was to give you, make you in charge, can you keep an eye on this bowl? What will you do? You will take the handles and you'll run away. How you hear all the time nowadays, in some places where things are stolen, and while we live here in the West, we see that, so many things are just laying around and people don't bother with it. If that was the case in some of the third world countries, how quickly things will disappear just because people are going through that poverty and they're in need. So there are a few istilahat that Imam uses. He said, Ittala al-Yaman. He invaded Yemen with an army and attacked it suddenly. Sayudaluna minkum. They will soon govern in your place. Al-Aqb, a large container. And Ilaqatul Aqb is the cord or the rope made of palm fiber or similar materials. So let's get right into the commentary of it. Where did things go wrong? In the second part of the sermon, Imam refers to the story of Busr ibn Artat, as I mentioned, the infamous criminal from Syria, his invasion and dominance over Yemen. So Yazid appointed Muslim ibn Uqba, or the history remembers him as Musrif ibn Uqba. Instead of calling him Muslim, they call him Musrif because of how this man was. What he did in Medina, he came and he ransacked Medina, and he made the Masjid of Nabawi a stable for horses for 3 days. Everything became halal for 3 days. He tortured the people and the inhabitants of Medina, the companions who lived there, desecrated the places and whatnot. And then following that, he attacked Kaaba. And his statement was that the hurmat of Kaaba is not more than the hurmat of Amirul Mu'mineen. And so that was the loyalty that he showed to Yazid. Even to someone like Ibn Ziyad, who did not want to go and do this, he gets who? Muslim ibn Uqba or Musrif ibn. Here, his father employs another individual of the same cunning mentality. History remembers him as Busr ibn, or Busr with a sin, ibn Artat. He then points out the fate of the people of Iraq, clearly explaining their dark future by mentioning precise causes and factors. So this is where, of course, the prophecy and the far-sightedness of Imam ﷺ comes into play. Some commentators of Nahj al-Balagha have written that Muawiyah dispatched Busr, a corrupt, murderous criminal and plunderer, with a heavily armed force towards Medina, instructing explicitly to attack people, terrorize them, gain their allegiance towards Muawiyah, and of course the future leadership that he's trying to fulfill. He says, wherever you arrive, pressure the followers of Ali. That was the clear instruction. Shia Ali. Filling their hearts with fear and horror. When you enter Medina, terrorize its people in such a manner that they perceive death before their own eyes. Because they sheltered the Prophet, supported him, and defeated my father Abu Sufyan. This is what, who writes? Some of the commentators, not Ibn Abil Hadid, whom we are quoting, but some, because there are many people who have done the commentary and the sharh of Nahj al-Balagha. I'm presenting one of them to you. Some of the commentators have written these exact words from Muawiyah. These commentators also quote the famous Egyptian, or amongst these commentators, the famous Egyptian commentator Taha Hussein. You've heard of his name. He stated that Busr carried out Muawiyah's orders meticulously and even executed or exceed the commands that was given. So Muawiyah, even though he had given very severe commands, he even went beyond that. I'll go 2 steps ahead of you. when it came to brutality. He left no stone unturned in spilling blood, looting properties, violating rights, desecrating the sanctities, until he entered Medina, inflicting upon its inhabitants severe atrocities witnessed by all. He forced the people to pledge allegiance and bay'ah to Muawiyah. Busr then moved toward Yemen. That was the later part of it. So Imam at this point is where? Imam is not in Medina. Imam is in Kufa, right? That's where Imam is. Imam alayhi his stronghold is in Kufa. That's where his army is. That's where his capital is. And all this is now happening in Medina. Then he moved to Yemen, spreading bloodshed and imposing severe fear and terror. Thereafter, forcibly securing allegiance for Muawiyah. Again, trying to get people to go against Imam Ali and to gain more votes for Muawiyah and his legitimacy as far as his government is concerned. He committed a horrific crime of beheading the two young sons of Ubaidullah ibn Abbas. So Ubaidullah ibn Abbas has two children who were in the who was the governor of Yemen at that time, appointed by Amirul Mu'mineen. Ibn Athir, one of the Sunni commentators, he adds to this. He says, these two children were staying with a man from a desert of Bani Kinana. He said, when Busr intended to kill the children, the Kinani man protested, saying that these children are innocent. Why are you killing them? You came to plunder the city. Go ahead and terrorize whatever you're trying to do and try and get votes for Muawiyah and to get allegiance for him. These two kids, they're not even baligh maybe. Wow, what's their crime? Why are you trying to terrorize them and kill them? He said, I will not spare anyone. So the guy said, well, then kill me as well, so that I may not live to bear the shame of failing to protect the two kids of the governor that were given in my custody. So if you're going to go ahead and kill them, go ahead and kill me as well. Thinking that, he might show some mercy. He showed no mercy. He killed Ubaidullah ibn, he killed that man, Kenani man as well as those two kids. So that just shows you how the brutal nature of this individual was. He was not ashamed, at least. He ruthlessly killed that man as well. In any case, this is where we come to the point where Imam alayhi this report reaches Imam. This is where Imam's reaction comes about. So this was the background of it. What happened with the Busr ibn Artat, what he did to Medina, to the people of Medina, to Yemen and the people of Yemen. Now this news eventually makes it to Imam Ali. When Imam heard about this, he became extremely distressed. Referring to this tragedy in a section of this sermon, he stated, I have been informed that Busr has invaded Yemen. By Allah, I am certain that his oppressive and bloodthirsty group will soon dominate over you and will seize power from your hands. That's what will happen. He will take control. Then Imam addresses the reason behind the tragedy and highlights 4 critical factors that always contribute to the victory or defeat. Number 1, Imam says, بِإِجْتِمَاعِهِمْ عَلَى بَاطِلِهِمْ وَتَفَرُّقِكُمْ عَنْ حَقِّكُمْ. Very, there are 4 words in it. Ijtima, batil, tafraqa, and haq. These are the 4 words that are being used in it. But look at the, profound nature of this kalam of Imam. Just this one sentence. That ijtima'ihim ala batilihim, they are united in their falsehood, وَتَفَرُّقِكُمْ عَنْ حَقِّكُمْ, while you are divided concerning your truth. Still, I don't see that you are truthful and loyal to what you've been given. Unity is always foundation of victory. Even if batil got together, they were united, they will win over you. I always quote this story from a group of people from Kashan who were on their way back to the city. They were, robbed by 2 bandits. And when they arrived, they complained to the Qazi and said, we were coming back with our caravan, with our goods, and these, bandits and the outlaws, they robbed us. So the Qazi said, how many were there? He said, there were 2. He said, how many were you? He said, we were about 50, 55. He said, you 50, 55 could not get united to take over those 2. They terrorize you. even if they had weapons, were two. And even if you didn't have any weapon, you were 55 or more. You could have easily overcome them had you been united. So those two were united, they were able to overcome 55 of you. And you 55 were disunited and you were not able to come over. Anyways, Imam says how painful it is for the supporters of truth remain scattered while adherents of falsehood stand together. Even though falsehood naturally leads to division. Batil is eventually going to go ahead and spill out, and these people will just, go out of their ways, and they will be separated. They will be divided. Why? Because that's the nature of batil, and that gives you hope today. That if you see things are, batil is exceeding in powers, and they are gaining more and more and securing more and more power and dominance over you, eventually this is batil, because it's falsehood, it'll pan out, and there won't be any, there won't be any, they will eventually have division in their accord. They will never remain united. But truth, on the other hand, haqq on the other hand, is inherently, its innate nature of haqq is, uski zaat mein ye hai, it's the source of unity. It's the source of cohesion. Yet you are now divided. Indeed, achieving victory in any social endeavor primarily requires unity and solidarity, while division and dispute act as deadly poison. Secondly, Imam ﷺ says what? He emphasizes that you disobey your leader in matters of truth, whereas they obediently follow their leader in falsehood. Same words, but put differently. وَبِمَعْصِيَتِكُمْ إِمَامَكُمْ فِي الْحَقِّ وَطَاعَتِهِمْ إِمَامَهُمْ فِي الْبَاطِلِ. Commentators have spent a lot of discussion from the linguistic aspect. That's why it's the peak of eloquence. Nahj al-Balagha is peak of eloquence. The eloquence and the fasahat in these compositions, these words, and no ordinary man can produce these masterpieces. So Nahj al-Balagha's commentators, I'm skipping through all that stuff because that may not be so relevant to us, but the beauty and the nature and the linguistics of how they have described it is beyond my comprehension as well. Clearly disciplined obedience and calculated adherence to leadership are among the fundamental conditions of success everywhere. No army, community, nation can achieve its goals without discipline and disobedience to its leader. This is precisely why in modern management practices as well, extraordinary importance is placed where? In discipline and organized leadership. Thirdly, Imam says what? Two more. They faithfully fulfill their trust towards their imam, their leader, while you betray yours. وَبِأَدَائِهِمِ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى صَاحِبِهِمْ وَخِيَانَتِكُمْ. Here Imam didn't repeat. He just says, بِأَدَائِهِمْ, they fulfill. وَخِيَانَتِكُمْ, and you don't fulfill. Imam could have repeated the same thing. بِأَدَائِهِمِ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى صَاحِبِهِمْ وَخِيَانَتِكُمْ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى صَاحِبِهِمْ. Imam could have said that. But he, again, this is referring to the fasahat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says their trustworthiness allows their resources, forces, and the capabilities to be fully mobilized against their opponents. When you look at, what's happening in Gaza, what Israel has been able to do, or what the Zionism has been able to do, the Zionism has been able to do. Of course, many Jews oppose that as well. But this Zionism has been able to mobilize resources, forces, capabilities against their opponents. On the other hand, your betrayal dissipates everything. You look at the Muslim world today. All the heads of states, with all the money and the power that they have, they're bowing down. They show, the nature of, this stems out of course, what? Disunity, lack of unity. They might stand together for pictures, for this convention or that convention, but internally they have their differences and they don't unite. Is a group lacking essential resources and penetration preparation rather can only end up defeated. Some other commentators of Nahj al-Balagha interpret trust or amana. We talked about amanat last night as well, and khiyanat. Here meaning by allegiance. Amanat, Imam is referring to allegiance, the bay'ah. However, the interpretation provided above seems more accurate, especially considering the context of what Imam is about to say later on in this sermon. So, the word amana, they were, quote unquote, have paid allegiance to Imam Ali. So, it wasn't about their allegiance. They had said, "Oh Ali, we consider you to be the Imam. We consider you to be the leader. We consider you to be the rightful haqq and the successor of Rasulullah." But saying that, is that enough? Paying allegiance to Imam Ali and not doing anything, is that enough? While the enemy succeeds and Imam's forces are being defeated. So when it was not enough then, it is not enough today either. Fourthly, Imam states, they strive to reform and improve or an improvement of their cities and lands while you are busy spreading corruption. بِصَلَاحِهِمْ بِلَادِهِمْ وَفَسَادِكُمْ. When we look at the Jews today and the Christians, well, Jews primarily today, how they are establishing, wherever they go, they're always mentioned with this or that, this invention or that invention or this, all these things that are coming about, they're trying to what do? They're trying to develop. And development is associated with them. When it comes to science, when it comes to technology, when it comes to anything, you see that there's some sort of development. And then on the contrary, you look at the Muslim world, while plagued with the war on terrorism, plagued with all these terrorist groups that are product of the West itself. But nonetheless, within themselves, you don't really see much development. If anything, you see a lot of corruption, and you see then exploiting the resources. Thus, the opposing group is united, disciplined, trustworthy, and committed to reforming their lands, whereas you are divided, disobedient, disloyal, and corrupt. It is entirely natural and inevitable that such people will triumph over the others, even with these negative traits. Even with these negative traits, they will definitely have power over you. No matter how wise, powerful, strategic the leadership and governance may be, success cannot come and cannot be achieved with people like this. If people like you exist, then even Imam Ali being a just, truthful leader, ma'soom, his government will not be successful because the awam is like this. The real strength of any government or leadership lies in its people. Truth is weakened by the weakness, incompetence, corruption of its supporters. And that's what you possess, Imam is saying to them. And me being a leader, a divinely chosen leader, is failing, not that Imam has any failure, is failing due to your weakness, due to your corruption. While falsehood gains its strength from the unity, power, and organization of its adherents. Then, to further emphasize and complete this argument, Imam adds, how can I trust you when if I were to entrust even a drinking bowl to one of you, I fear that you might run away with its handle. And shouldn't. How low can someone? Imam is giving the lowest of the examples of this loyalty and trustworthiness of these people. Those who cannot be trusted in matters as minor and trivial as this, right? Giving you a bowl. How could they possibly be entrusted with the most critical responsibilities of Islamic governance, such as matters of war, matters of peace, managing treasury, Baitul Mal, and other similar things? How do you expect me to go ahead and trust you with the hundreds and thousands of dirhams and dollars and whatnot when I can't even trust you with a small cup that you will use this and run away? So, of course, Imam shows his frustrations over here, and this frustration stems from what? Disobedience to Imam, And this frustration stems from obedience to the army of Muawiyah. And of course, the war crimes that were committed, the bloodthirsty nature of Busr ibn Artat, how he was deployed to go ahead and attack the people of Yemen and Medina. Wa akhdawana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Allahumma. नहीं भाई ज़्यादा था पहले